I'd like to invite Professor Amiresh Dubey of the Center for Study for Rural Development at JNU to talk about agricultural growth, poverty, and nutrition. You have about 10 to 12 minutes. So my job as chair is really to be a glorified timekeeper. So I'll butt in if I think if you're running over.
I'm Amiresh Dubey, and we were asked to look at a specific aspect of the nutrition, and that is about how does the availability of food and dietary diversification or dietary diversity is emerging in India in terms of economic status, in terms of spatial variation, in terms of various social group variation, and so on. So what we have done is, this is a first cut and very much work in progress, basically. And it's sort of the persuasive skills or other pressure tactics of Sunita that made us to write this at such early stage. And we ended up writing something, and apologies beforehand if there are anything. These are the broad economy-wise trends, which all of us are aware, is just to put the thing in perspective and give you a sort of recapitulation. Somebody, someone like Himanshu, who just walked in, probably needed to take a look at it again. There are two basic issues that have emerged. One is somewhat stagnant growth in agriculture. Second, there is a set of literature that talks about the reduction in poverty and increase in, it's not malnutrition basically, but the people or the population that does not have enough energy consumption, that's going up. So there was this disconnect which was very apparent from the literature. And there are studies that put this to the tune of something like 75%. So that was one basic point which we have tried to address, and let's see how it goes. This is again the same thing. Nutritional trends, the proportion of underweight children declined. It's albeit marginally. And also the individuals with low BMI fell regularly over the last 30 years. What are the possible explanations? Okay, why the food energy intake has been declining? So there have been a number of sort of guesses that were made. It could be because of copying consumption pattern, exposure to media, fall in dependence on homegrown food, and somewhat faulty indexes. And this is a pretty interesting one, because the way the normative food energy requirement was worked out way back in 1979 by YKL-led committee called Task Force. They worked out something like 2435 calories for rural areas per person per day, and about 2100 calories for urban area per person per day. And one of the draft report which we had looked into, I haven't gone through, let me put, it was only specific part, and that part is, it very clearly says that at that point in time, whatever the nutrition expert group of 1968 and then subsequent nutrition expert group has done, they had made very serious error in assuming a few things. There's no time to go into detail, and it so happens that when we try to work out with the draft recommendation, or what is RDA, things change very differently. They are very dramatically. But that result I'm not presenting here, and some of it probably Himanshu will be talking about. In this paper, so the main thing that I'm going to show you, the tables are there in the paper. So, and from here onwards, I can just move very quickly. We have used data, CES data, 50th and 61st rounds, and converted all the food items into calorie using the conversion vector that is available corresponding to each of the food items consumed by quantity and the corresponding calorie content. And what we get here is in four broad food groups: cereals, pulses, vegetables, milk, and meat, etc. In rural areas, there are two things that emerge here. One, urban has been lower. Our dependence on cereals has been lower, which is understandable. Two, there has been decline over time. That is, this dependence on cereal is declining, and it still remains on an average, what Professor Sen has pointed out. In fact, for average in India is more than 2/3 calories are still coming for cereals. And the next slide makes this look slightly different. And bulk of it, that is up to about in 93, 94, and 2004-05 in rural areas, if we go by MPC deciles, these are bottom 10% of the population and right up to the top 10%. What hits us is straightforward. Close to 82% comes from cereal for the bottom decile, and it declines all the way. And where the changes are occurring is essentially the milk and milk products, meat and meat products. And that is one thing that is probably the sought after one, and it goes right up to from about 11% to about 33%. So 1/3 of the calorie for the highest income groups comes from this is the rural areas from milk and milk products. In case of 2004-05, this has improved in that sense, and the milk and milk products contribute close to 37% now, or more than 37%. In case of urban, the situation is similar, and what is surprising is that for the highest income strata or groups, essentially 45 to close to half of the calories for the top decile coming from milk and milk products and meat. And there is not much happening here except that there are changes. Substitution is taking place, mostly from cereals to veg and fruits, which is a very small amount, and then milk and milk product all the way. Those tables are summarized here, and in order to cut or save a bit of time, all of 13 seconds, I'll move to the next one. And this is by social group, and this is something that very much corresponds to what we know about incidence of poverty and income levels or income status of various broad groups, which is scheduled tribes, scheduled caste, and others. And all India and rural-urban results we have seen. So there is not much here except that these differences do persist. That social group differences, that STs are worse off in every possible measure or whatever we get hold of, this too confirms or conforms to that kind of result. And this also is very well known, as Sunita has pointed out. It's known that rural areas are worse, urban areas slightly better. Everybody who is in urban areas is better, whether it's ST, SC. But these differential between ST and SC in the urban areas is only marginal, whereas in rural it's much more pronounced than the other one. Now, this is some of the things that we are trying to do. And this is completely unfinished part of the agenda. We're trying to relate some of those outcomes. In fact, there's one thing that the table is not given in the presentation, but it is table 5 in the paper, which gives you this at the state level. And state level variations are very important, which were earlier pointed out by Mahendra Dev and Professor Sen, that the state level variations, specifically the states in the eastern region, and some of these tribal states. For example, Manipur, it's as high as 82% of the calorie comes from cereals. That's average for the state. And states like Orissa have something like 70% plus, or 74% if I remember. This is table 5 for rural and table 6 for urban in the paper, which gives you the state-wise variation on the sources of calories for the households. Pattern of agriculture. And if somebody has any question on this one, I think I'll push or deflect it to Amit, who is somewhere in the crowd and just hiding somewhere. And these are various growth rates, and there are too many agriculture experts around, and I don't want to venture into this. Keeping in time, I just want to summarize it by whatever has been presented, its average food energy intake is declined. The reason first is there have been serious problems basically with the recommended dietary allowance, and therefore we do need to take a fresh look at how that needs to be worked out. Is a first cut of the calculation so that from 2435 calories it comes down to under 2,000 calories per person per month. We follow exactly the methodology used by task force with the new RDA. And surprisingly, in urban areas, it's marginally less than that 2,000 number. It's about 1,900 or so. And using that, if we try to get the proportion of households which are calorie deficient, that turns out to be under 40%. In fact, if we apply the FAO norm, that is 1,800 calories, which was used in this Tendulkar committee report for validation of some of the results, it's actually about 36-37% in rural, urban areas both. So that is the sort of number we are getting where the households are calorie deficient. And by far, this is where I'll end. And this is work in progress, and so some of the other issues we'll certainly like to take a look at. Thank you.
That was perfect. That was perfect timing, exactly 10 minutes. Maybe only clarificatory questions, and before we move on to the next speaker. Yes.
Yes, Amolish, I have a clarification to see.
Yeah.
You were saying that there is a switch.
Yeah.
I mean, is it because the milk has become cheaper and therefore the poorer or at the higher income level you switch to this? What is the reasons for this? Assuming that the trend is okay, but what is the reasons for this?
Well, as for the first part, second part is assuming that, well, that's what the trend we are getting, and that's perfectly stable. The second one is it's mostly the income effect, because milk and milk products have not become any cheaper.
Still people are switching.
Yeah.
Poverty rates fell from 46% in 1983 to 28% in 2004-5. But the recent report submitted by Dr. Suresh Tendulkar clearly points out that 37.1% of our population are living below poverty line. This is Planning Commission report, and that is also government-backed Suresh Tendulkar report, which is the correct figure,
Well,
correct status. Then the next question, most of the data are relating to only 93, 94 to 2004-5. Most of the data you have mentioned
right.
Only relate to 93, 94, 2004-5. But what about the current 2009-10 or 8-9?
I think let's just focus on the first question, but not the second, very quickly.
Well, 8, 9, 9, 10 data are yet not in public domain. Two, as far as 37% versus 28% is concerned, it's change in the methodology and change in the poverty size, our numerical value of the poverty line that has come about. And it's only for 1 year that is available. For previous year, if you want to compare, say, with 83, 93, and so on.
Planning Commission consistent with the poverty methodology.
No, can I on behalf? No, just a second. Can I on behalf of Planning Commission give you a reply?
Okay.
The Planning Commission's official poverty today is the Tendulkar poverty. That is, it is 37%. However, that does not mean that poverty has not declined between 93, 94 and 2004-5. It has declined by exactly 9 percentage points. That is from something like 46 to 37 if you apply the same methodology to both years. So that's the answer to your question.
Okay. I think with that, we'll move on to the next speaker. I'd like to invite Professor Amita Shah of the Gujarat Institute of Development Research to talk about agriculture, women, and nutrition, and we'll open it up for general discussion after all three presentations are done. Thank you, Amresh.